So, what is Brexit exactly? We know that it's Britain exiting somewhere, but why is it important and why should we care? Well, Brexit is the exit of the multinational state of the UK from the European Union, or EU, a political and economic union of 28 European countries that promotes peace, freedom, equality, and progress. It is also the largest trade bloc in the world and has a joint market with all the countries involved, along with a free flow of migrations between the country. Think of it as a country of countries. Leaving the EU would allow Britain to have more freedom with its laws, including stricter regulation on migration. However, leaving could also mean that there's conflict in Ireland, a hit to the economy, and a negative effect to all current migrants that were formerly allowed to travel freely between the countries. On June 23, 2016, the UK voted 52 to 48% to leave the EU. However, Ireland and Scotland both voted to stay in the EU, with Wales and Britain both voting to leave. The UK was due to leave the EU on March 29, 2019, but that has passed and the Parliament has asked for a second extension, making the third due date the 31st of October this year. And some people are pushing for a second referendum or vote, but they have not yet agreed to it. Theresa May, the Prime Minister, has attempted to strike a deal with the EU, but her plans continue to be turned down or unapproved. If her plans continue to go unapproved, there might be a no-deal Brexit, where the UK just leaves, but that has its own set of issues. There's a division between the UK about the issue because different countries within the UK want different things, which can be seen in the vote, and those pushing for hard Brexit are less likely to change their mind, and there's so much up in the air, and that causes people to hold close to their views.
There are many problems that may arise from the UK's divorce from the European Union, and several questions that have popped up throughout the entire process. What happens to those living in the UK from different EU countries? What happens to Britain's future involvement with the programs they currently participate in? How will British and EU economies be affected? How will this impact both the economy of the EU and UK? What will happen to Britain's borders and how are they regulated? Without the major British economic contribution, the EU's economics may falter. Britain's influence may falter as well. EU residents living in Britain without a visa will be forced to either leave or stay by a certain time. Brexit may cause tension between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. Britain may lose important ties they have with the EU and countries associated with it, such as trade for resources they don't produce themselves. Scotland may separate from the UK in order to stay with the EU, and British citizens may have to pay more taxes to pay off the divorce bill. To top it all off, bigger companies in Britain might falter due to cut ties with the EU's economy. Many of the EU laws for equality, such as maternity leave and equal pay, could potentially be stripped. There will be fewer immigrants to do labor, and the UK may lose the US as a primary trading partner.
Despite the situation having seemingly endless problems, there are also some positives to it. For one, if Britain were to separate from the EU, they would have more freedom to regulate their own laws rather than following the guidelines of the Union, giving them a sense of sovereignty and independence, shifting the focus to the issues of the British citizens. It gives the British economy a chance to flourish on its own, especially since that they will be saving more money without membership fees in the EU. It could fix immigration issues and lower the competition for jobs. An unchanged border may reunify Ireland, depending on if they do or do not change the border between the Republic and the Northern.
There are two ways in which Britain could carry out Brexit, a hard approach or a soft one. With a hard Brexit, the split between Britain and the EU would be much more definitive, whereas a soft Brexit would be the opposite. The harder the Brexit, the more likely the UK would leave the single market, the common union, and the courts of justice, all of which are aspects that are only available to EU countries. This also means that Britain would have much more independence and a better chance of making up their own set of rules as they please. This would also be an advantage for small businesses within the country, as they would have less competition with tariffs on imported goods from other countries. However, this could be bad for large businesses trading with the EU, as they would also have to suffer tariffs as well. A soft Brexit would go for the opposite regarding business. Trades with other countries would have the advantage, and markets within the country would struggle with competition. A hard Brexit could potentially mean harder borders, which could raise conflict between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, who have a rough history. With soft borders, which would remain soft with a soft Brexit, they've been able to maintain peace over the past decade, but tensions have recently begun to rise with the notion of Brexit. Without Brexit, any EU citizen can freely travel in and out of Britain without a problem, but this could also come to an end if Theresa May negotiates a hard Brexit. In this scenario, the British would have better security regarding their borders as the ease of crossing into the country would cease. Their viewpoint of immigrants would most likely change. They would be happy about increased security and begin to notice that immigration will begin to hold fewer problems, while the Conservatives like this version, the Liberal Democrats do not. They instead want to go for their soft Brexit. Theresa May hopes to make a compromise between the two to please both sides, titled the Chequers Plan. However, this doesn't seem to be working, as the British are not satisfied with this deal. Personally, I feel that a soft Brexit would be the best approach for Britain. While this would mean they'd still be under some EU regulations, it also means there would be less of a chance for Britain to falter on its own. I wouldn't suggest it be too soft, as that wouldn't be very effective in what Britain wants. Perhaps over time, they could shift towards less of a relationship with the EU until they are satisfied with what they have.
When deciding your thoughts on Brexit, it is important to obtain your news from more than one news source. This doesn't mean go for every news outlet, but most hold a bias towards whatever they share. Not every news source outlet will provide every piece of information concerning the matter. Hence, why this is important to go to multiple sources in order to learn the full story.